Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by the man who, much like Deion Sanders, won't have. He will also will not be going to specific NFL teams. Kyle, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Yeah, they took me out of the running for the Cowboys job pretty early because I looked too much like the previous coach. That's what.
Right. Said. Yes. That's. I believe that. I think that Jerry Jones would hold that against you if you were in the draft.
Yeah. Not to mention my resume is not too strong, but there's a few things that I think are going against me there.
Yeah, other than absolutely not being an NFL athlete and looking like Mike McCarthy, I think those are both similar tiers of things working against you.
Yeah, very very little baseline knowledge of NFL coaching too, so that's a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, that might be tough, but Kyle, I think you could do okay.
Yeah, I thank you. I do appreciate it. I could be a coach one day, maybe like Pop Warner.
I think you would do good because you would very quickly realize I am absolutely not good at this and hire people who are good at coaching. Like you would not. There would be no power struggle with you.
Yeah, my strategy would be hire the right people.
Yeah, hey, that's not a bad strategy, Kyle. A lot to get into today. This was, an interesting slate of games. I think some really good games this week, some not so good games. We'll talk about it all. First, as we always do on the Wednesday show, we are going to recap the Monday night game. The Dolphins beat the Rams. This was a game that was technically an upset. The Rams were, I think, 1.5 favorites entering this game. But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest takeaway has to be that this Dolphins team with Tua looks way better. Right, and the question is, can they win enough games because they are in such a hole to get into the playoffs? But they're certainly a team that can win games, and they play the Raiders and the Patriots the next 2 weeks, so they're very much in it here.
Yeah, they are very much in it. I will say that end of the season is going to be very tough, especially. I mean, I guess who knows? Maybe the Jets do just stink, and they'll get that win. But that end of the season should be tough. And so we'll see how that plays out. But, they're going to be back in the conversation, I think. This was a good win. They played well. I think they've played well the last 3 weeks. They've had some unfortunate I think they've had some unfortunate losses, the last 2 weeks, obviously, and then they get the win this week. So I think they're in a good position here. I think that they have an opportunity to make the playoffs. If I'm going to say Cincinnati and maybe even on the outside spots, the Jets can get back in it, although I'm not very high on the Jets' chances to get back in it. I think Miami absolutely can too.
Yeah. Does my audio sound better now? I had to adjust the microphone. Is it good here?
Yes, that's much better.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. My bad. And yes, this is a Bucky's shirt. Someone's asking me to chat. Kyle, it's the craziest thing. I got the shirt, and I get. Anytime I wear it in public, someone mentions it. It's I don't know what it is about Bucky's. We're having a Bucky's shirt, but it's just no matter what, no matter where you go, you will get people to notice.
It's a Texas staple, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, and I've never even been to Bucky's. I just had the shirt.
Yeah, I don't know. I used to live 5 minutes from one. That was pretty dangerous.
Gotcha. I got us off track. Apologies. Yeah, back to the Dolphins. No, I mean, at least for that, the Jets just have to completely start playing better as a whole team. The Dolphins have a very real excuse for why they dropped so many games, and it's because they had a tough schedule. Tua was healthy. 2 games against the Bills, Cardinals, and then they played the Jaguars. That wasn't tough, but they had some tough games, and that's why they dropped some, and then just didn't have their starting quarterback. So I mean. Again, we don't have to go through it again. Obviously, them having a better backup would have helped, but could keep them afloat a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, this defense played well. This is a team I think I'm willing to buy in on right now.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm okay with buying in on it. It's going to be a long road to the playoffs, so we'll see. But I do think they have an outside shot. I definitely do, and yeah, I mean, this was a good performance. Like I said, I actually, I think they were in control the whole game, and I do think they deserve credit for that. I do think these are 2 pretty evenly matched teams still, though. The yards per play stuff, a lot of that, a lot of the game script was pretty even. It felt like the big thing was the Rams red zone thing was, Miami was 2 of 3 in the red zone, and the Rams were 0 and 3 in the red zone. And if you just, take away 2 field goals and add 2 touchdowns, that's a tie ball game in this one. So, I mean, I think these are 2 pretty evenly matched teams, and I think both of these teams have a chance to make the playoffs. It's just, both sides kind of have to get on a run here.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about the Rams. Like, I mean, they definitely struggled in the red zone. That was the game for them, not being able to convert on all those possessions. I don't know. I mean, I think, excuse me, I think we expected a little bit more here from the Rams, right?
A little bit. Like I said, they definitely needed to finish better in those drives. I mean, just in general, like 6 points in the first half wasn't really what we were expecting when this Miami defense hadn't been that good this season. It's had some good performances, but not this level. They got good production out of some of their guys too. I mean, Jared Verse might be defensive rookie of the year this year. I mean,
he's easily, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a close second.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough defensive rookie class. I mean, it was drafted that way for a reason, but he's also been very good. So, I guess maybe Quinyon Mitchell would be next, but like I think there's a gap there. Yeah, I think it's I think they're getting some good production out of guys they needed, but it just wasn't enough in this game. And I don't know. I just feel like I keep waiting for this team to be on the precipice of something. I keep wanting to buy back in on this team, and it just seems like whenever they get some positive momentum, it's just immediately halted. They win that 49ers game, then they drop 2 in a row to a bad loss to the Bears. Now that it looks like they win 3 in a row here, and it looks like they're getting something going, including beating the Vikings, which, obviously was a big win. And then they drop this game and look pretty lifeless for half of it. So I just don't really know what to think of this team yet.
Yeah. On their best day, they look great, but they've been inconsistent this season. Let's move on. We'll talk more about these teams once we get to the preview. Kyle, you're once again hanging on here by a thread. This is an interesting week because you didn't get your lock and I did, but I still wasn't able to make up ground. This is, I'm getting close. I can feel it.
It's gonna break through one of these weeks. It's gonna go back and forth to the end of the season. So we're hanging on here, and I still think I got a good week here this week. I feel pretty good about it.
Okay, well, Kyle, there are some great games. Also, I don't know why the banner color is different. The StreamYard updated, and now the banner color is different. So, sorry about if you like the old banner color, but that's where we're at now. Kyle, a lot of interesting games. I'm not going to bury the lead. I'm going to start with the game we're here to talk about. Chiefs going to take on the Buffalo Bills. Who do you got?
Dang it. This was my number 1 too. I don't
the
like
underdog,
this.
undefeated Kansas City Chiefs right now.
I know. This feels too disrespectful, right? Like, I think they're going to take this personally. I got Kansas City winning this one. I don't feel great about it because Kansas City's been far from convincing in a lot of these games, but I do think this defensive line can win against the offensive line, even though this Bills offensive line has performed pretty well this season. I do think the one thing I have to look at in this game is, like, we've talked about it. The Chiefs secondary hasn't looked the same without L'Jarius Sneed this season. I think we've seen teams be able to beat them on the outside against their outside corners. However, I don't know if Buffalo's receivers, I mean, they've been good this season. Their passing game has been very good and their offense has been very good, but I don't know how much of it is winning one-on-one on the outside. I know Keon Coleman can do it in spurts if he plays. I don't think he actually is going to play in this game. So that's a big miss. And so, like, if they don't have him, can they win on the outside even against this depleted Chiefs secondary? I think that's the big thing for me. And as much as I think this Bills team is good and I think they're a contender, I think the Chiefs win this one.
Yeah. We have someone with a super chat. It says, because go Redskins, have a good evening, Jax. Again, I think you've done this before. You again might need to Google who the new team name is.
Yeah, that's definitely not it.
Yeah, a little bit behind there. Two team names behind.
Yeah, bring back the Washington football team. That's what I always say.
I agree.
We want our balls.
Yes, we'll stop calling them the balls if they go with Washington football team.
Yeah, no, we won't. But
No.
yeah.
Anyway, back to the Bills Chiefs. You're right. I looked at it. I believe Coleman's been announced as out. So yeah, I'm certainly not expecting him to play. You're right. I think both teams are going to have to methodically move down the field. Kyle, I have some interesting stats to talk about with the Chiefs. There's this perception of this is a bad offense and a really good defense. That's not really the case. If you look at their per drive stats, they're actually better offensively this season than they are defensively by a decent margin. The reason why I think there's a perception issue is they by far and away play the least amount of drives per game. They're looking at currently the average Chiefs game has 8.5 drives per team. I mean, that's absurdly low. So like that's a big part of it. You run the second most plays per drive. So this is an offensive first team, I think Kansas City is. And I do think that they're built to methodically move down the field. They don't have a lot of a real deep shot right now, but with the Bills defense kind of set up, the way you beat it is methodically moving down the field. I think the Chiefs are going to take this one as well. I could see it going either way. I kind of even understand why the Bills are favored, but I'm also leaning Kansas City.
Yeah, Bills are favored at home. It makes sense. I understand why. However, I do agree with what you said. Like they don't hit the explosive plays. They don't throw the ball down the field a whole lot. They have hit a few this season, but still not really without Rice and without Hollywood Brown. They don't really have a reliable option all the time. I know McCall Hardman can hit a few big plays, and the teams play defense a specific way against them. They take away those passes because they know Mahomes is dangerous when he has that time to throw the ball downfield. So it is a different approach. It is long drives. It does change a little bit. I do think the offense, though, has been very good the last few weeks. I definitely think, and against that Ravens game, I definitely think they had a little bit of time where they sputtered there in the middle of the season. But for the most part, I think they've been pretty solid, and they've looked very good this season. So I'm not overly worried about the Chiefs offense. I think they're going to have success in this game. And honestly, I could see both offenses have success in this game if Buffalo can find ways to win on the outside, if they can prolong these drives. It could just be a lower scoring game, though, because it is longer drives. So it'll be fascinating to see how that plays out. And, I think it could go either way. Usually these games are pretty close between these two.
Another super chat by the same guy. Washington football team would be fine with us. And then smiley emoji. Also, this comment made me laugh. It said, I accidentally said the Washington Balls to my father yesterday instead of the Commanders. That's good.
Glad we're rubbing off on people. Balls are rubbing off on people.
Okay, we can phrase that better, I think. One more take I have about this game. We're all over the place here. I don't know. Remember draft night when everyone said, why the hell did the Chiefs... Why did the Bills let the Chiefs get Xavier Worthy? Are we willing to say why did the Chiefs let the Bills get Keon Coleman?
Yeah, I think that's the better one. I mean, I still like Worthy, and I think he's going to have I think he could be pretty dynamic in this offense going forward. But yeah, I mean, Keon Coleman looks much better.
Yeah, I think at least up until this point, Worthy's had the highlights, but he hasn't really been consistent so far. And bad at staying in bounds. Every time there's a deep shot and he's open, he'll just run out of bounds.
That's an important skill to have, I'd say.
Yeah, I think so. This just should be a fun game. Do you have any more thoughts on this?
I'm just looking forward to it. I feel like there are a few different parts of this team. We've touched on Xavier Worthy and obviously Coleman not playing, but Amari Cooper's on this. But I feel like we just know the characters of these two teams, and it's just another round. So I feel like we kind of know what we're going to get from both sides. It's just, can the Bills get pressure? Can they get to Patrick Mahomes? They haven't been able to do it basically in any of these games they played. I mean, Patrick Mahomes was borderline perfect the last time these two teams played. So they have to disrupt him somehow. They have to have a change of game plan from that playoff game.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you can get pressure on this Chiefs team, I mean, give up. Jawan Taylor's been all right this year, but they have no left tackle.
Yeah, it's been bad.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on. Kyle, time for you to give me a game.
Yeah, I think this is the second best game of the week too, and it's competitive, and it's going to be huge playoff stakes here. I think, especially for one of these teams. So Bengals at Chargers.
Yep, this was number 2 on my list as well. I fully get it. I believe this is a Sunday night game, right? I mean, I get the Bengals thing because it's like this offense is so good, and I get the wanting to compare to you compared them to the Bills last year. I just feel like the Chargers are a better team. I just do. Like, I don't think Herbert is that much worse than Joe Burrow. Like, I think I would take Burrow over Herbert, but I don't think it's like a massive. If it's a tier jump, it's one tier jump, right?
Yeah.
And then I just feel like the Chargers have so much more defensively. I think the Chargers are they're going to run the ball a lot. I think they're going to have success offensively in this game, and I think the Bengals are going to have to battle. So while I do think that, again, the best player on the field in this game will be Joe Burrow, I'm still going to Chargers.
Yeah, I understand both sides. I'm leaning Bengals just because I feel like you know, I dug my I dug my foot in the ground on Sunday, saying I think this is the fourth best team in the AFC, so I have to pick it. However, I see both sides. I think this Chargers defense is obviously very, very elite. It's the best defense in the league so far this season, or at least one of the top three. In some statistics, it is the best defense in football. So it's up in that conversation. I think Justin Herbert's had a very good year. Even though they're definitely limiting what they have to do in the passing game, I think he's almost maximized the efficiency of that passing game and done a very good job with it, with guys like Lad McConkey, Joshua Palmer, Quentin Johnson, who's just a touchdown machine this year. He's maximizing, I think, the output of those guys, and they've been very good in the passing game and excellent in the running game too. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. Because I look at this Chargers team. They're not very explosive on offense, obviously, because of their playmaker situation.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, I don't think this Bengals defense is good. Like, there is an opportunity here that if the Bengals do manage to score points, which isn't easy on the Chargers to begin with, if Burrow keeps being Burrow this season, which is possible, like, they may just hit a number that the Chargers cannot reach because this offense isn't doing it, right? Like, I just think that's kind of the case for picking Cincinnati in this game.
Yeah, I think so. I think if, we've said it before where it's like if your strategy is to run the ball constantly against a superstar quarterback on the other side of the field, like that doesn't always work out too well. That can be a losing strategy, but I don't think it will be in this game. If you look at, our favorite stat, EPA per play, the Bengals rush defense EPA per play is fourth worst in the league. That's not what you want going against a Jim Harbaugh team.
Yeah, no, it's not. And they actually did a good job last week. That was the frustrating thing. They did a good job stopping the Ravens for a large portion of that game. And then it was one turnover. And then all of a sudden it was like Derrick Henry got it going. Lamar Jackson took off. And that was the difference in the game. So the Bengals have to play a very, very clean game. Like, I do think if they play clean football, they should win this game. Just because I believe in this passing game. I believe in the talent there. But They can't give the Chargers more opportunities than they deserve because they're going to take a long time with all of their opportunities. They can't have a short drive or a short field because of a turnover or something like that, because I just think that the Bengals are more explosive.
Yeah, they absolutely are. You're right. And if the Bengals can not lose the turnover battle, which is not easy to do against the Chargers, but if you can make sure just to get that to a tie, you have to think the big plays would then massively swing over to their side because they have the explosive offense.
Yeah. That being said, Jim Harbaugh, his defensive track record is not very impressive. I imagine he's just going to do everything he can to make sure Jamar Chase is not going off in this game, right? Like, that just has to be the strategy after last week.
Yeah, and I think that that's what they'll do. I mean, again, the Ravens like to just sort of say we'll man up and play one-on-ones constantly, and even in that 2-point attempt, they still had a one-on-one with Jamar Chase. Like that's just what they do. They trust their guys. The Chargers aren't afraid to help out if they have to.
Yeah, so it's gonna be fun. Another one. I just think if I'm going to pick the Bengals to make the playoffs, I feel like I just have to pick them to win this game because I think they need to start winning games. So that's kind of just where I'm at.
Yeah, because they play the Steelers next week, and then they do have an easy stretch with the Cowboys, Titans, and Browns, and then the Broncos, which is a competitive game, and then they finish with the Steelers. So it's like they're going to have to win at least a couple of these. So again, really strong Sunday night game here.
Yeah. I mean, I think if they want to get to 10 wins, they can only drop one more game. So I mean, the two Steelers games, the Broncos game, this one, like, that's kind of my thing. Like, I think they are talented to win on any of those games, but like they can't drop two of them.
Yeah, it's tough. They're in a tough spot. That Patriots loss in hindsight, maybe they should start a little stronger during the season. I don't know. Kyle, let's move on. My turn to give you a game, and this is the other real barn burner of the week. Browns at Saints.
Browns at Saints. Indeed, it's a bar burner. Man, I can't pick Jameis Winston, so I'm going to go with the Saints. I keep flip-flopping on this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just can't pick Jameis Winston. I'm never going to trust him. I don't care. I have major concerns with the Saints in this game for a few reasons. One, I think Carr's played really well this season. Like, I think we've mentioned it a few times on this podcast. He's actually been good, very, very good, I think, when he's been on the field. But despite what Michael Thomas thinks, I think he's had a very fantastic season.
Mm-hmm.
However, the script on Carr, as we've said multiple times on this podcast too, if you get pressure on him, he panics. Like, that's just kind of who he is. The Browns have a guy who can get a lot of pressure, and the Saints don't have the offensive line to block him. So that's my first concern. And then my second concern is, like, we've seen the Saints defensive line, I think, regress this season, honestly. And obviously it's getting a little bit older too, so that plays a part in it. And I just think there's an opportunity for the Browns to kind of like run all over them and bully them up there. But that being said, I'm picking the Saints because I don't know. I'm just picking the Saints.
Kieran says in the chat, if he beat the Ravens, why not the stinky Saints? I mean, anyone who says they know how a Jameis Winston performance is going to go is lying, right? Like, you never know what's going to happen. And he did have 3 drop picks in that Ravens game as well. That being said, we've seen him have really good throws, like immediately after that drop pick where he threw to the game-winning touchdown in that Ravens game, right? There is that wild card. I can't figure the Saints team out, and their record's bad enough. I don't have to, so like it is what it is. But like I don't know what this team is. They've had weeks where they've looked really good. I think even last week they beat the Falcons. That's a team that's comfortably in a playoff spot right now that they were able to win against. But then obviously they lose to the Panthers. So I really do think it is, if you can get pressure on them, they're going to look really bad. If you can't, then they're going to look really good. And I think the Browns can get pressure on them. So I would pick Cleveland to win. Yeah,
I keep going back and forth on it. However, I still think they have some turnover merchants back there for the Saints. And we know Jameis Winston loves to be a turnover merchant. He loves to throw the ball away. And like, it's just like, it's not only that, but it's also not good receivers too. Like, they have to throw with like Cedric Tillman and such. So it's just, it's a really tough situation. I don't love either of these teams, but I don't want to pick either of these teams as the issue. Like, I really don't. And I'm just picking the better quarterback, I feel like, at that point.
You could pick a tie if you want.
That'd be, well, I should get like 7 points taken off if I correctly pick a tie.
Okay, I'm fine with that. 7 points taken off. Do you want to take the tie here?
No, I'm taking the Saints.
Okay, gotcha. Yes, just good. Nice to know we have that option, though, if you ever want to pick a tie. Kyle, we can move on from this game. Why don't you give me a game?
All right. Let's go tomorrow night. Maybe the most impactful game of the season, or this week's slate, as far as the playoff race goes. 2 NFC East rivals, balls at Eagles.
Yeah. It's a good choice. It is. I am fascinated about this game. I mean, the Eagles are 3.5-point favorites. Obviously, they've had a bit of a bumpy ride, but they're still. I mean, as of right now, you look at the standings in the NFC. I mean, they're 7-2. The Commanders are 7-3. Those are the second and third best teams in the NFC right now. So it seems very likely that if one of these two teams can sweep the other of these two teams, that team will be the like number 2 seed, maybe even number 1 seed. Like, that's on the table. Essentially, the Commanders have had the best offense in football by most measurable statistics. They're first in points per drive. The Eagles have been top 5 in both offense and defense. So it's like there's a huge talent gap when it comes to the Commanders defense versus the Eagles offense. But there is the Marshawn Lattimore thing. I think I'm just going to go with the team that, again, similar to how I picked with the Chargers, is the more complete team right now. I'm going to pick the Eagles, but I don't feel great about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tough. Like, this Eagles, I think if you watch this Eagles 5-game stretch, you might say you pick them against anyone not named Detroit. But that being said, it's also games against the Browns, Giants. They did kill the Bengals, that I've continued to say is good. And then they beat the Jaguars and the Cowboys. Like, it's not exactly a murderer's row there. So it's going to be fascinating to see exactly how this team's tested, because they've been able to come up for air at least these last 5 weeks. And they've looked very good doing it. They've kind of regained their swagger. I think that going into Dallas last week and doing what they did, now that Dallas team is in total disarray, but that's still a rivalry game. that's still one that fans and all that get up for, and they just went in and put him to sleep in the halftime. So I think that was really, really impressive. So I think there's a lot of things to look at for the Eagles and be excited about. I am interested in the Lattimore thing because, I mean, we've said it time and time again, how important is A.J. Brown in this offense, right? How impactful is he in this offense? And, he may commit 10, 12 penalties, but, Marshawn Lattimore is not afraid to be as physical as he can and try and take a player out. Although he's not playing, actually. I just saw that update. As of 5 hours ago, he's not playing with a hamstring injury. So,
wow.
Yeah, so I like the Eagles.
Yeah, I feel better about my pick then. Yeah, because I mean, we talked about last week. One of the differences in the Steelers balls game could be the new additions, and we ended up nailing that prediction because Mike Williams had the game-winning touchdown and Lattimore didn't play. Yeah, no Lattimore is huge because I mean, the Commanders, they like to trust their guys on the outside. They do. Like, I think it's funny because for all the things Dan Quinn has done well, like the defense hasn't been a part of it. Now, I would say he's actually doing what he can with this defensive roster. Like, it still looked a lot better than it did last year. But, I mean, yeah, I feel like for the Commanders to win this game, like, they can't let A.J. Brown destroy them, but that's easier said than done.
Yeah, they also let Pickens, like, kind of have his way. I know that he had that very hilarious highlight clip of what a wild person. But, he had a huge game in that one, and I can see A.J. Brown having some similar success. So, yeah, I think it's just going to come down to, like, Jaden Daniels just has to play like superstar Jaden Daniels again. If he plays like he did last week, I think this is the Eagles. But even when he didn't play well last week, they looked pretty good in that game. They almost had a win. So I think they could absolutely beat them. It's just going to come down to, I think Jaden Daniels has to return to superstar form that we saw basically the entire season until last week.
Yeah, I'm not going to bet against him.
Yeah, I mean, he's been fantastic.
Yeah. Let's move on. Why don't we, Kyle? My turn to give you a game. Another really strong game on the slate. I'm going to give you Ravens Steelers.
Ravens Steelers. This is a good one. I'm looking forward to this one just because, the rivalry aspect of this one. This is always a fascinating one. I'm going to take the Ravens. I don't think there's many teams I would pick against the Ravens at this point. And while I think the Steelers can cause some issues, obviously we know what they do with their edge rushers. Very talented. T.J. Watt's obviously in the picture there. I just think the way Lamar Jackson's playing, I think this may be his best season to date, honestly. Just the way I've watched him dominate these games. And I just think it's going to be very hard for anybody to contain him. Like, the Ravens have obviously lost games this season, so they are they can lose games. But it feels like they just lose kind of dumb games rather than like these kind of games. I just think they're going to be ready for this game and they're going to pull out a win. So I got the Ravens.
It's an interesting matchup because, like, I was looking at the points per drive stats. The Ravens are second offensively. The Steelers are third defensively. So it's great on great. Usually that favors offense, right? But like not always. The flip side is I do think the Steelers have in terms of like where you are in the league, their offense is better than the Ravens defense. So like, absolutely. I think what you do is you hope that you can kind of neutralize Lamar Jackson. The issue is like, okay, if you can do it, you be the first.
Yeah. Yeah, you could be the first this season for sure.
Yeah.
He's had 24 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's completed 69% of his passes. Nice. And then not to mention they have a running back in the backfield who's 1,100 yards on 6 yards per carry and 12 touchdowns. And he also himself ran for 540 yards and a couple touchdowns himself. So it's just impossible. It's an impossible equation right now. I don't know how anybody does it. We'll see if they can do it. The one game I would be interested in seeing, the Ravens, the defense has been suspect this season. There's no doubt about it. We've talked a lot about it, so I don't need to go into it again. The pass defenses look beatable. However, they have had some really good games this season where they've just looked prepared to kind of win battles. And a lot of it does come down to, like you said, they trust their guys on the outside and they win those battles sometimes. Like that Buffalo game was kind of the roadmap, wasn't it? Like they contained Josh Allen in the pocket a lot of that game. He had 5 runs in that game, 21 yards. And then they limited James Cook up front too. They got a big lead in that one, so they had to throw the ball. And then they just kind of won on the outside. It felt like that entire game. And I just feel like that's kind of the roadmap. Now, granted, George Pickens is better than the Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman duo, especially when it was the fourth game of the season, I think that was. So that is a better, a bigger challenge for the Ravens. But like, it's not crazy to say like Marlon Humphrey can win on the outside and they contain Russell Wilson, who's not as athletic as Josh Allen. And it kind of looks like that game, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, because Marlon Humphrey has not been the issue with this Ravens team at all. The issue has been their depth and their secondary. I think the key to this game is going to be Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington in this over the middle attack. I think the depth players for Pittsburgh have to come through. They don't have to be the ones getting the big plays, but they have to be getting enough here.
Yeah. Yeah, they need other guys to step up because there is going to be a lot of attention and the best corner on the team on Pickens, and maybe Pickens wins because I mean he's a great contested catch guy. He is so fun to watch, and he has been fantastic. So there is an opportunity for it, but like I do think there is an opportunity here that Baltimore does win this game up front, and the defense looks better this week, and they'll be okay. But Pittsburgh can obviously win it. They've done very good defensively, and Russell Wilson in the second half of these games has played fantastic football.
Here's the other thing I'm interested in is the Steelers, for all the things they do well, they don't have the best cover corners. That's kind of always been their game. It's the really good safeties, really good front seven, and the corners are just good enough. Can you cover 2.5 seconds, right? Like that's kind of all they need. I do wonder in this game, you're going to see probably less two safety deep coverages. You can't play two safety deep against Lamar, right? Especially not against Lamar when he has Derrick Henry on his team. And then do you see a situation where this Ravens receiving core, which has been really good this season, can they get some guys to win on the outside? I think it's possible. So yeah, I like the outside matchup better for Baltimore. That's why I would pick them to win. But I do think this game could flip.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. So we're gonna get some more. I think we're gonna get some more Deontay Johnson in this game too. Obviously, so that'll be very exciting. Rashad Bateman has had a very nice season, and then you have Zay Flowers, obviously, against these inside guys for Pittsburgh, which are very good, but that's just a different level of speed to have to contain. So I'm excited for it all. I think the chess match there is going to be interesting, and I just think that the Ravens offense is going to win out against most teams I see.
Is this the best backup tight end matchup in the league?
Isaiah Likely against Darnell Washington?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Mm-hmm.
What does Austin Hooper of the Patriots rank on that?
Oh, he after last week, pretty high.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. We'll get into our backup tight end rankings later on. I think let's move on. Kyle, give me a game.
All right, Colts at Jets.
Okay, yeah, it's a good choice. So they announced Anthony Richardson is going to be the starter. I don't know how you trust anything going on with this Jets team. I have to pick them. I do. It's almost like legally required to pick the Jets to win this game. Like I keep saying this, they have more talent, I feel like, than the Colts. The Colts do have talent as well. I don't think either of these teams are awful, but like you have a quarterback who literally just got benched for a 40-year-old Joe Flacco, who's now coming back because 40-year-old Joe Flacco was so bad, going up against Aaron Rodgers, who maybe isn't what he once was, but is still a very good quarterback. Like, are these the two most dysfunctional teams in the league this week?
Oh yeah. They're a bit all over the place, aren't they?
And that's with the Dallas Cowboys having their star player call out their head coach.
Yeah. It's not ideal. You definitely don't want to be out of these teams right now. It is funny though. Like, I don't know. I think it is the right decision to go back to Richardson. However, like, it is funny to see the optics of it play out for sure.
It is. I mean, I'll say this, like, you got more information, right? And isn't this what we always say is when you get more information, you should adjust how you view things? Joe Flacco was clearly the better quarterback prior to them making this decision. Since they made this decision, it is no longer clear who is the better quarterback, so let's just go with the younger guy. Like, it's easy to bash on them, but like, and was it the right decision to go to Flacco? In hindsight, obviously not, but like, I'd rather a team admit they made a mistake and move on than a team that is going to just kind of, double down.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be interesting. Both of these teams are kind of desperate at this point. Both of these teams obviously wanted to make the playoffs. The Jets a little bit more so, I think, than the Colts, and the the Colts at one point were 4-4 and hoping to make it and drop these last 2 games. That's why they are making this change. The interesting thing for me is like we've just seen this Jets defense not be good when they don't get pressure. And like I just think that this defensive line has feasted on some bad offensive lines and looked good doing it. And then they've kind of been silenced in games against good offensive lines. And you know, we know the Anthony Richardson blitz stats. I couldn't find the blitz rate this season, but the Jets are a defense under Robert Saleh that historically don't blitz a lot. And they rely on that pass rush. And the Colts have a good offensive line. You know, they do have that. So like there is an opportunity here, I think, that like if they're not getting pressure again and you're giving Anthony Richardson some time, like there is an opportunity here that like the Colts can make big plays. Anthony Richardson is still a big play maker as far as that goes in the offense.
Yeah, absolutely. I was curious, so I looked it up. They're looks like the Jets are right around, I think they're like 13th or so. They're right around middle of the league in blitz rate. So actually more than usual they've been blitzing. But yeah, I mean, they're not a blitz heavy team or anything like that. But I agree. I mean, again, Richardson's a guy you don't want to have to pick. This is a good job making me pick this game because these are two teams I just feel gross about having to pick.
Yeah, it's just kind of where I'm at. This is the dysfunctional bowl. That's what it is for sure.
Yeah, because these aren't. There's worse teams than both the Colts and the Jets. These are not the two worst teams in the league. These are two frustrating teams for me because I feel like they should be better.
Probably the most miserable teams right now, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think
maybe the Cowboys are in the conversation.
Cowboys got to be up there. I think I'd rather be a Colts. Well, maybe not. I think Cowboys. I think those are the big three.
Yeah, no doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you brought up the playoffs. Like, I guess, I mean, if you're a Jets like super fan, if you're on the Jets team, you're probably still thinking, "Hey, win out." Like we can, I guess, right? I mean,
if you're a Jets super fan, you're probably in therapy. Honestly,
yeah, probably. You're probably right.
You're not on this podcast. That's for sure. You're just having a session right now.
Yeah, that might be the case. Yeah, tough situation here for these two teams. We barely even previewed the game. You did. I just talked about the teams in general. I don't know. Yeah, there should be windows for Richardson. You're right. We'll see if you can hit him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's tough to preview these two teams because we've never seen the best version of these two teams, or at least not consistently. Like we see it in spurts, but like we've seen Rodgers play well. We've also seen him stung. Like why do we? How do we analyze these two teams when we have no idea what we're getting out of them week to week?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Let's move on. Kyle, I'm going to give you a game. I'm glad I didn't have to pick this game. I was worried I would. I'm going to give you the last close game left on the board, Falcons at Broncos.
Yeah, lock it up, baby. Let's go Denver.
Okay.
Denver on the lock. Couple things. Number one, I don't like this Falcons defensive line. This isn't a hot take. This is probably the worst pass rushing team in the league. Bo Nix can run the ball. He can move. If they're not getting pressure on him, I worry how much they're going to be able to actually like be effective defensively because he can move and make plays on his own. He hasn't had to do it a whole lot this season, but he has deployed in spurts and been very good at it. So I do think there's that. And like, I don't know. I think this Falcons secondary is obviously pretty good with Jesse Bates back there, but it hasn't been like world beaters at all. And they don't have a good defensive line in front of it. So I think Denver's going to be able to move the ball okay in this game and win this one by a field goal. And just not to mention, I understand what the Falcons can do in the run game. They are going to be very good at that, despite, some injuries on the offensive line. And, I also think this offensive line just hasn't played as good as it usually has. We called this one of the best offensive lines in the league preseason. I think it's been okay. I don't think it's been the best offensive line in the league. We're in that conversation at all. And so I still think they'll be able to run the ball in this game. I think the big thing for me is going to come down to the secondary. Can they get open in this game? Can Kirk Cousins take care of the ball? We've seen this Broncos secondary just overwhelm, almost everybody and be very good at it. And I think they do it again in this game. So give me the Broncos on the lock. I think they win this one at home by a field goal.
All right. Yeah. I understand it. I think this game could go either way. I'm glad I don't have to pick this game, to be honest, because I get what you're saying about, okay, the Falcons secondary does seem to have taken a step back from last year. I still think it's really good. I still think there's a lot of really good players here, and this Broncos receiving core, with the exception of Courtland Sutton, really doesn't have anything. And I do think that, again, I trust Atlanta will be smart enough to see, like, okay, you got to double Sutton. Like, he's not Jamar Chase, but he essentially is Jamar Chase for that offense, right? Like, he's like that important to them. So you take him out of the game. I think you're right. I think it's going to be, you expect a long period of time for Bo Nix to throw, and you expect Sean Payton to be able to scheme stuff up. You know, Sean Payton. I mean, we were talking about how excited he was for the Bucs game. This game, he was in preseason preparing for this game.
Yeah. Yeah, he's ready for all of these NFC South teams. He was ready for this season for sure. And look, I mean,
I don't know if he cares that much about them.
Yeah, that's fair. But look, I mean, it just comes down to, like, the Broncos, I think, are a good team. They've had some really tough opponents the last 2 weeks, and obviously some bad luck last week with that loss. I mean, besides the fact that their guy just, like, fell over blocking. You know, they have to start winning games if they want to make the playoffs for sure, because there are good teams behind them chomping at the bit. And this is a winnable game for them. I think that they get back on the right foot here this week and have a 3-game stretch here where they have an opportunity to stack some wins and maybe make it easier down the stretch for them to get in that conversation for the wild card spot. So I do like the position they're in here. And I do think on paper, these two teams are pretty even, just like talent wise, or maybe not talent wise, because I think Atlanta's more talented, but based on like what we've seen performance wise, I think these two teams are pretty even. I just think the matchups favor Denver too much. I do think, oh boy. I do think I do agree with you. The secondary of Atlanta may be a problem, but if they're not getting pressure, you know, you can't cover forever. We've seen Denver be able to exploit that at times.
I think there's massive mismatches in several different ways with this team, because I also think that I look at the Broncos secondary, which has been very good against the Falcons, very good receiving core, which I think should be interesting. So like, I think that's just I guess that's not a big matchup thing. That's just an interesting matchup. That's when I'm wondering how that's going to go.
Yeah, it is interesting matchups across the board, but yeah, I don't know. There's just something about this Falcons team that rubs me the wrong way, to be honest. Maybe that's bad analysis, but like, I don't know. They've stacked some NFC South wins, and then it's just like now we're trying to convince us that they're good. Like, I don't know. I don't like it.
I feel like they're another team where it's like if you get pressure on them, like it's game over. Like they can't do anything. I don't know. I mean, Denver covers really well. They kind of been inconsistent at just being able to win one-on-one. So we'll see how that goes in this game.
Yeah. It's going to be huge. But yeah, I mean, this Atlanta team has 6 wins right now. 4 of them are against NFC South teams.
Yeah.
And they beat the Eagles 22-21 when they were basically just miserable. And then they beat the Cowboys last week when I think that was the game Dak got hurt. Or 2 weeks ago.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, it's in fairness, they were winning that game before Prescott went down.
Yeah. But it was only a 6-point win.
Well, but wasn't there like I feel like I could remember wrong.
There was a late score and 2-point conversion that made it look a lot closer. Yes.
Yeah. I think Atlanta was the better team even before the Prescott injury. But yeah, I agree. I mean, Atlanta has been, they started off so strong, and then when they stopped playing the Buccaneers, we're like, oh, they're actually maybe not that great.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see. This is a big test for Denver. They need this. I think they need this one to make the playoffs, honestly. I do, because I do think there are too many good teams that are coming back now and then looking to go on a run.
I agree, because we all kind of said, oh, Denver's definitely making it, but like, the Dolphins are a game and a half back at this point. Your Cincinnati Bengals are a game back. Like there's too many teams.
Well, I mean, just in theory, like if they win this one, they're 6-5, and like they have the Raiders and the Browns, like they could win both of those games obviously very easily. They should beat the Raiders. Then all of a sudden that's 8-5, and then they end the I mean, that end of the slate though is the Colts that are going for a playoff spot, the Chargers going for a playoff spot. And then it's the Bengals going for a playoff spot. And then Kansas City, I mean, who knows what they're doing in week 18, but I mean, they're not going to rest starters if they're going for an undefeated regular season. So
yeah, I don't think they're going to do the Colts in, 2012?
Yeah.
No, I agree. It's interesting. Broncos have a chance. Big win for both these teams, really. Because again, we talk about Tampa Bay's easy schedule. Atlanta needs to make sure they don't jog with the lead here. I guess that's not an expression, but it sounds like one. Kyle, give me a game.
Let's go. All right. Don't love a lot of these games coming up here. Let's go Vikings at Titans.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough. This is a great slate for the top like 6 games, top 7 games. Then we get to some stinkers here. I'm picking the Vikings obviously to beat the Titans. I'm a little surprised you gave me this game as early as you did. I feel like there's a couple games that I thought could go either way. What is the pathway for the Titans who have really struggled to win? Is it the Sam Darnold factor?
Yeah, he's turned the ball over a lot lately.
Yeah,
And you know what? Let's give our man some credit. Will Levis played well last week.
sure.
He was put in a tough spot against a very good defense, and he looked good against a very good defense. He did get sacked 7 times, but outside of that,
I
thought
with
he
his
did,
offensive line, that's pretty impressive.
yeah, I thought he did pretty well in that game, in that spot. The Vikings are going to blitz the hell out of him, and that's going to be tough. But maybe this is a turning point in his career.
I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe. I can't say for certain that it won't, but he is definitely going to throw up at some point just a blind jump ball down the field.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the good thing is, too, is like Calvin Ridley has actually played well like the last 3 or 4 weeks. Like I think he has been a very good. He's had a pretty decent year after being kind of inconsistent, I felt like, in Jacksonville. So having that outlet, I think, has been beneficial to the last few weeks for them. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, I mean, all of these games, I don't get some of these lines, these middle lines here that we're looking at for the next few picks. Like, I feel like they're pretty easily going one way.
Okay, well, we'll get into it. I don't know, Kyle. I think the Titans are just going to run the ball every single time they have the ball and then hope that they can do maybe an occasional play action and just hope that Sam Darnold screws it up. I think that's their plan.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's probably the right plan too. So I mean, we'll see. I mean, this does feel like I would have expected this to be Vikings by 7, but they have looked very unconvincing, I think, the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, they couldn't even beat the Mac Jones Jaguars by 7.
Yeah. So, I mean, if Sam Darnold does turn it over 3 times, then anything's possible.
Yeah, but I almost wonder if this is an overcorrection for the Darnold thing. The Darnold thing is a concern. I just don't know how much I don't know if that's going to happen every week. It's going to happen every now and then, but like I think is this an overcorrection to that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I think all these games are overcorrections.
Okay, well we can get into it. Okay, we don't spend forever on some of these. We can move on. I'm going to give you a game that I feel okay about giving you here. I'm going to give you Seahawks Niners.
Yeah, this was next on my list. I think it's an interesting one. I am going with the Niners. Like, look, we've seen the Seahawks offense, be very good. And I think that's probably the pathway as they score with them. And I do think it's a realistic pathway. So I do see the case for it. My issue is we've just seen this defense be total butt against good offenses. And this is very much a good offense for San Francisco. So I just think the defense is going to be a huge problem in this game. Like they're going. I wouldn't be surprised if San Francisco scores 40. Maybe Seattle keeps up with them, but like they have to keep up with them.
Yeah, I mean, when we've seen these two teams play earlier this season, and it didn't go well for Seattle. Brock Purdy was, 18 for 28 for 255 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Geno Smith threw multiple picks in that game. Had 312 yards on 50 attempts, so they weren't really able to get a run game going. I still think the San Francisco team is very good. Obviously, the special teams thing, it's an issue for them. It just is, and you feel like it's going to bite them at some point this season, and it kind of already has, like in that, I think the Cardinals game went their way, but they've had issues in the past, but I don't know. You have to pick San Francisco to win this. The only reason I'm giving it to you is divisional game. I think 2 quality teams here. It feels like a fine, these things can go the other way. We saw earlier this year, the Patriots got killed by the Jets and then beat the Jets the next time they played. Like divisional matchups, things get weird.
Yeah, I definitely see the case for it, but San Francisco has more guys back than they had in that game. And yeah, I just think that's the difference. I think that they're a better team and they scored 36 without all of their guys. And I mean, at this point, they have all of their guys now.
Well, no Ayuk, right?
Yes.
So that does thing. But you're right. They have McCaffrey, who we'll see how healthy he is as well. But yeah, I mean, 2 teams that again, it's you don't want to say like both teams need a win, but I think especially for Seattle, you still play Arizona twice, you still play Green Bay and Minnesota. You still play the Rams and the Bears, which I don't think those are guaranteed victories. So like they do need to start. Like they don't really have their one easy game left on the schedule is the Jets, and even that's like I don't know. They have shown flashes of being good, so like they're gonna have to start winning some of these competitive games.
Yeah, I mean it's make or break time for them. I agree, but the problem is, I don't know. I think I'm just fading Seattle right now. I just don't think this defense is playoff quality. I really don't. So I'm kind of just out on them making that run, and I think it's a good offense, but like they just seem to be trending too much in the wrong direction. That Buffalo game was a big stinker for me.
Yeah, let's move on. Kyle, give me a game.
I think we know what's going on here. I think I know what's going on here, but I'm going to give it to you anyways. Let's go Packers at Bears.
Packers Bears. Okay, I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. I'm not locking up this game if that's what you were asking, but I will pick the Packers to win. I mean it would not be a bad. You know what? Sure, that's a good choice actually, Kyle. Yeah, I'll lock them up.
Okay, yeah, because this was my other pick for a lock. I see the case for it. However, this is like Chicago's Super Bowl. Now, we've seen Aaron Rodgers kind of bust them a few times with this one, but like this is like Chicago's Super Bowl every year, and I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of get it together. Is there an offensive coordinator bump instead of a head coach firing bump? Offensive coordinator firing bump?
Maybe.
We'll see. But I mean, look, this defense is still pretty good, I think, and we've seen Jordan Love turn the ball over, which I think makes a huge variable of change. So I see the case for maybe making the Bears cover, maybe the Bears on an upset. But these two teams look like different classes right now. The Bears are trending way too far in the wrong direction. I don't think anything that a new offensive coordinator could do could be fix this in a week. And I think the Packers are really good. I think that they're a Super Bowl contender. I think they're absolutely there. I mean, I think they're one of several teams you can make a case for second best team in the NFC, and I think that they have a shot to win this game or a shot to make a run here.
You know, I can't lock this team up. I just can't do it. And here's why: it's like you said, it's like could Jordan Love throw too many turnovers? I like another lock better. I'm not going to lock this game up, but I will pick the Packers.
Okay.
I
canceled lock. I don't think I've seen a canceled lock before. So
we're making history here.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, like I said, I know that Lions game, it was 2 weeks ago now because of the bye week. I know that Lions game was a double-digit loss, but, like, I still felt pretty good about the Packers in that game, despite the Jordan Love turnovers.
You love the Packers in that game. That's the biggest quality loss of the season for you.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they had really good moments. They did. They obviously have to clean up things. They can't commit 10 penalties a game. They can't lose a turnover battle to good teams. They can't go 1 of 4 in the red zone. There are high leverage situations that they have to get better at. But like they did a lot of really good stuff in that game. And I think there's absolutely a case that the Packers could make a run and I mean, honestly, beat anybody in the NFC. This team's a good 6-3. Like they've lost to quality teams and they've been very competitive in all of them. Like I think they can beat anybody.
Like the chat of snip snap about my canceling the lock. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I don't know. You're right that like this Bears team is just so inept right now. Like the offense is so bad, but they did fire their offensive coordinator, and like, is there going to be something to come of that? I don't know, but like, it can't hurt, Kyle.
Yeah. What happens if this team just like drops 30 in this game? Like that guy has to be labeled a terrorist at some point, right?
I don't think that's how you get labeled a terrorist. I think that there's other things you do.
Football terrorist, maybe.
Okay, maybe football terrorist.
Dropped enough F-bombs watching them.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, is it gonna? I mean, I guess the question is, I don't know. Like, Kyle, there's this narrative everyone's saying now, like, oh, the Bears were so dumb to not draft an offensive lineman and instead draft Rome Odunze. It's like their receivers can't get open either. Like, this is not like this is an issue across the board. Like, this is not just a one issue here. Like on paper, they shouldn't have needed Rome Odunze, and it should have been a luxury pick. But like, kind of, I mean. The DJ Moore thing's been weird. Keenan Allen has not been what they thought they were getting when they traded for him. And Rome Odunze has shown flashes. They've all shown flashes, but he hasn't been consistent.
Yeah. Nothing seems on the same wavelength. And I don't know if it's a Caleb thing. I don't know if it's a offensive playbook thing. I mean, it's probably a combination of everything, right? Like, it just has to be. So it's just going to be interesting to see if it can get worked. That's the thing for the Bears. Like, winning any more games this season, I don't think matters. you just have to see like some level of cohesion developed over these last, what are we in now, week 11? So these last 8 games or whatever, we have to see some level of cohesion.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's all you're looking for. You're fully in. We have to make Caleb Williams look decent.
Yes. And you know what? Maybe he turns it around and goes on a run and plays better, but like he just has you have to get him in a position where he's comfortable and looks like he can play.
It is worth mentioning. I know it was a week schedule he was going up against. He did have like a 3-week stretch where like we were legitimately talking about could he end up challenging Daniels for the Offensive Player of the Year award. Like that was a legitimate conversation that happened at one point like a month ago.
Yeah, I mean, for all the negatives that's happened to him this season, and I do think he deserves a lot of the criticism. Like he's had really good moments too. Like I do think that gets mistaken here. You know, there is more good moments this season for Caleb than there was for Bryce Young all of last season.
Yes, he's been better than Anthony Richardson.
Yes, that too.
Is that a good thing? That anytime you're as a rookie quarterback getting we're mentioned, just even saying the words Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young, it's a bad thing.
Yeah, it still has to get a heck of a lot better, but
yeah,
there have been better moments.
Yeah, and the Packers are the Packers. I didn't say anything about them, but we know who they are. Let's move on. Okay, so that was you gave me that game, so now I'm going to give you a game. I'll give you your team, Rams Patriots. Yeah, only 4.5 point underdogs. Look at the Patriots. Look at how far they've come, Kyle.
Yeah, they've been league average the last few weeks by some statistics.
There you go. I like that. By some statistics have them as league average. Well done.
Yeah, I have a tough time seeing how the Patriots, I know they played well defensively last week. I have a really tough time seeing how they're going to contain Nacua and Kupp, and I just think that's a problem. So, Rams.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think this is like after this game, we're like, wow, the Bears really do stink.
Maybe. Yeah, that could be the overreaction to it. Unless the Bears look good against the Packers, who knows? But yeah, that could be the reaction to this one. So yeah, I just think that this team struggles against elite receivers as it is, and now there's 2 of them. Like I just think that's an issue.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a problem. Here's the pathway to victory. We know Stafford will put the ball in harm's way. That's always been his game, right? If you can get, the Patriots do have players who can like create turnovers, right? Like that is something they do have on their roster. And then I think the Drake May thing is interesting. He has shown flashes. Kyle, there is a I guess political ads are over now. The campaign managers are going into football because there is a ton of like positive Drake May stuff. I saw a report came out that's like Drake May's halftime speech galvanized the team. They were up like 10 points at halftime. What kind of a speech do they need? But people are pumped up about Drake May.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to be excited, so I'm okay with that. Yeah, I just think it was, there's a lot of reason to be excited. I think he's shown flashes of brilliance. I mean, there's still a lot of things he needs to work on, and that's okay. But I mean, he's just exciting to watch. Like he's very creative with his passing. I think he's creative with the way he buys time. He has people are going a little crazy. It feels like at times, but there is shades of Josh Allen to it. I mean, there really is. So he has shades of that to his game. And, I think if it gets harnessed the right way, it absolutely can be an elite player.
Yeah, but he's been better to start his career than Allen wants to start his career.
Oh yeah, he's further along, but Josh Allen also took a massive, massive leap. So I do think there is a case to where he gets to that level. I think there is a case to it, but he still has things he has to harness. It's not as big of a leap as Allen took, but there's still a leap there that needs to happen as far as processing the ability to take care of the ball, because he has put the ball in harm's way. Obviously, we've seen some of the interceptions haven't looked great, but I also think a lot of it is him taking some chances that just he doesn't need to sometimes.
Yeah. Could we see a big maybe Demario Douglas day in this game? Could we get some? I mean, the Rams secondary isn't the best. You could get some downfield passing maybe.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think there's a case for it. I really like the duo with him and Keyshawn Butte. So I like those. I like those two. I like Demario Douglas being able to work over the middle of the field. Hunter Henry too. Austin Hooper. And Austin Hooper, good backup tight end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've liked some of the weapon development this season for New England. Like I said in our Sunday podcast, like I don't think it's crazy to say this team gets at a number one guy, that this weapon room can be very good because like Douglas has shown flashes, Butte has shown flashes, Henry has been Hunter Henry. Like I do think there's a case for it. They just need the elite player to make it easier on all those other guys.
Kyle, I'll give you a second lock if you want to lock up the Patriots. I'm gonna allow that if you want it.
I can't do it. It's okay. I'm not gonna risk it.
Yeah, you're in the lead. You got to play it safe. I understand. You're not doing a Dan Campbell going for it on fourth down up in second half. I understand. Kyle, give me a game.
Raiders at Dolphins.
Yep. Next on my list as well. I mean, obviously, I'm picking Miami to win. I think Miami has shown they can be a little shaky, and the Raiders have had the occasional one-off good games. So, like, it's probably a fair one to pick here, but like only because the other two games are real stinkers. I'm picking the Dolphins to win this one, Kyle.
Yeah, you have to lock this, don't you? Because we have an odd number of games, don't we?
No, there's 2 games left.
Well, isn't there an odd number of games for the week?
I'll double check.
4, 5.
I don't think so, unless I miscounted.
I might have miscounted. I do that sometimes. I'm not a math major.
We were not a math podcast. Well, as Kyle.
Oh yeah, it's 14, not 13. Okay.
Yes.
Never mind. Okay, so 14. So you're good. Yeah, Miami's better. I don't know. Like, what? This is another team. Like, what is a Raiders fan tuning in for at this point? What are we watching here?
It's tough. I mean, this is
Brock Bowers.
I think what you like about the Raiders is that they at least don't have any like horrible contracts that are like hurting the team the way that some of these other like bad like the Jets are like massively over the cap for the next few years. The Cowboys are the same way. At least the Raiders, in theory, if they get a quarterback, things could be different. But yes, the answer is Brock Bowers.
Yeah, he is exciting. I mean, how much different do you think this season would be if they ended up getting Michael Penix? Because, I mean, it's very clear that they wanted him. But, I mean, at the same time, they wouldn't have got Brock Bowers. So, I don't know. I think that would have been an interesting dynamic. If this was Michael Penix in here instead of Brock Bowers, is the team more exciting? Do they keep Devontae Adams to try and give him an option for a weapon there? I mean, it's just so fascinating to see how that played off because it's just so that Atlanta pick is just so funny, man. It's just so funny because this team was just ready to take Michael Penix and go with that. And then, I mean, they get this superstar dynamic tight end. I mean, he looks like a superstar in the making and he's their most exciting player, but I don't know. Like, there's just not a lot of things to look forward to.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, they're in a deep rebuild. I mean, it is what it is, but like, I mean, like, what can you do? Like, Penix was gone. Like, do you trade up to get Bo Nix, who maybe you're not as high on? I mean, he looks good, but would he look good if he was with the Raiders? Probably not so much. So like, yeah, I think it's like they're kind of in a tough spot.
Yeah, they definitely are. So it'll be fascinating to see how that plays out. But obviously, like you said, they didn't marry themselves to any like bad contracts, and they traded one of their big contracts. So I think they kind of knew what they were signing up for this season when they brought in Gardner Minshew. It's just it's been a tough year to watch, and another one of those miserable teams. I feel like not quite as miserable as the big three, but it just feels like every week there's another Antonio Pierce quote, and it's just like, all right, man.
Yeah, and is Pierce going to be one and done? I guess does it count as one and done if you were interim the year before?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if he's going to be one and done, but like I wouldn't blame them for doing it.
Yeah, it's weird because I remember like Max Crosby was like really like this guy's got to be our head coach in the offseason. So I maybe if Pierce has the locker room, then like that might be his way to get another year. I think he needs to like take the guys out for dinner a lot.
Yeah, well, he's called them out enough, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. And again, Dolphins are very good. We talked about Dolphins earlier. I don't have too much else to say. This is one where, hey, you want to be competitive? I like to do this every now and then. Cover the 7.5 point spread.
Yeah, go kick ass in this game because they should.
Yeah. Well, let's move on, Kyle. 2 games left, despite what someone tried to tell me. I want to give you. I honestly would have been fine locking up either of these games. I'm going to give you just the one that I have one circled as a lock, so I'm giving you the other game. I'm going to give you Texans Cowboys.
Oh wow, you're taking that one.
Hmm.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Texans. I honestly thought this was going to be your lock after it wasn't the Packers Bears. I don't see the case for the Cowboys covering this game. Like we just watched them last week. They're going against a good defense, and yeah, I just think that's a bit of a problem. Any good defense is going to silence this team. Just any good defense. They don't have the skill players. They have, CeeDee Lamb and Rico Daldo. That's just not enough to make anything happen. It's a tough spot. So yeah, I think that is the case. The one thing is just going to be, can Micah Parsons wreck this game, which he is good enough to do at times. But like, I also think the Texans are just going to, if it gets to the point that Parsons is just living in the backfield, they're just going to start running the ball. And Joe Mixon's been very good this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Texans win. I think the thing is just like, are they a good enough team to be 7.5-point favorites given how they're playing right now? It seems like Nico Collins. I think it's a game time decision is what it looks like. So,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I feel like if it's that close, give him an extra week.
Yeah, maybe put him on a snap count. Like if you feel like you need him, then put him out there. But just be prepared to give him the extra week and use him as a decoy.
Yeah, I think so. I think the Texans are definitely a better team in this game. I agree with what you said. Like Micah Parsons could have a big day against a not very good Texans offensive line. That could slow them down. Can they fully take advantage on the outside? Don't be able to some degree take advantage, but by how much? And then I don't know. I don't know what to make of this Cowboys offense. I agree, they're not going to score much, but yeah. I think this would be a totally fine lock. I like both locks. That's the only reason I'm not locking up the Texans. I like the Texans minus 7.5.
Yeah, DeRon Bland is questionable. Maybe that helps.
That would definitely help. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's a great player last year. He should have been Defensive Player of the Year last year. I don't care what anybody says.
Sure.
I was riding Myles Garrett for a lot of the year.
Yeah, I'm going to say, you did not say that. You are one of the people that you don't care what they say.
Yeah. I did say Myles Garrett at the end, but like, I don't know. There is just at a certain point, if you're scoring 6 touchdowns, like you probably should have been Defensive Player of the Year. I think that's a hindsight thing that I'm just looking at. Like, there's just no defensive player that's worth 6 touchdowns over a season, and he literally scored 6 touchdowns. I don't know how you match that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, no, he was very good. So getting him back would be huge. And again, I don't know, because Trayvon Diggs hasn't been good this year. I don't know I don't know what's going on with this Cowboys secondary, but maybe getting him back could help complete it. But yeah, I mean, this is the Cowboys are very bad. Kyle, have you heard of all this drama involving the Cowboys Stadium Sun situation?
I mean, this isn't like a new thing, so I don't know why it's I went to the Texas High School Football Championships a few years ago, and it's impossible. Like middle of the day, because they literally have the game spread out. They do it over like a week, and then each day is like 3 games. So it starts in like the afternoon and then goes throughout the day. And then just in the middle of the day, it's just like you can't see. Okay. And I don't know why they decided now it's an issue.
Well, I'm pretty sure every other NFL team does it, to where the sun is never direct towards the end zone. So it's always going to be either above you or off to the side. The Cowboys are the one team, because they like to have cool backlit pictures, which makes great pictures. Definitely agree there. They want to have the sun come in on one end zone, which of course means that no matter what, it affects you, because either it affects your quarterback or it affects your receivers trying to catch the football. And the other funny thing is they do have curtains. They have a mechanical curtain, so it takes you press a button. I'm assuming it's more than just pressing a button, but like they can make the curtains cover it up. They elect not to do that to blind the players, which is just, I think Kellen Moore, who is the Eagles offensive coordinator, said like, oh yeah, you have to, when you're in Dallas, you have to call plays based on where the sun is. Like that's like what are we doing here?
Yeah. Yeah, I have seen the curtains too I went there for a concert. So like I do know the curtains exist too. Like I don't understand it. It's a bizarre thing.
Yes. All right, Kyle. Let's get to my lock, the one that I debated locking up multiple games prior, going with this one. Kyle, I can't not lock up a 13.5-point spread. Come on. Locking up the Lions, 13.5-point favorites against the Mac Jones Jaguars. I mean, let's go Lions. This should be another 50-3 game.
Yeah, they should dominate.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a good matchup. This Jaguars team was pretty stinky outside of getting 3 interceptions. This Jaguars team was pretty stinky last week. Mac Jones did not play well. This should be a dominant one. However, we did just see Jared Goff top 3 interceptions last week. Could it happen again?
I don't think it matters. I think that the Jaguars. I think this is not only do I think this is the massive talent gap. I think the Lions just have a good matchup. I think this offense should do well against the Jaguars defense. I think they're going to scheme this stuff up well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it basically is. So,
like the one thing that kind of the Jaguars do well is, I guess, like the two things is they can rush the passer well and they can get turnovers. Well, if the Lions are going to have guys wide open and they have a great offensive line, what else can you do?
You can't get turnovers if guys are wide open. That's usually how it works.
Yeah. It's difficult. It's very difficult. I don't know. I mean, how do you what's the path? The other thing too is like this Lions defense has been really good, and now you got Mac Jones coming to town. It's in Detroit. I mean, this could get ugly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and this team's created turnovers too in defense. You know, this secondary has been very good at it. So I don't see the pathway either. I really don't. I guess like the thing is like maybe Brian Thomas can break a couple big plays, but like Mac Jones also has to make those throws. So I don't know.
Yeah. Kyle, the over-under is currently set at 47. How much do you think they're expecting the Lions to get of that over-under? Probably like 40, right?
Yeah, 40. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
40-7 seems right.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we've been wrong before. We've sat here and said this team has no chance, and then they've come back and won. Like, it's football, any given Sunday, all of that. It doesn't feel like that's going to happen here.
If it was Lions minus 20, would you take the Lions or the Jaguars?
I think I would. I wouldn't lock it in that scenario, but I think I would still take the Lions.
Yeah, fair enough. Tough break.
What's
bad Jacksonville season?
If the money line is just permanently at 50-50, what would have to happen in the first quarter for you to say, you know, I'm putting money on Jacksonville? Like if they get like 3 pick sixes in a row, are you putting money on Jacksonville? I think maybe still not.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like Goff could turn the ball over a lot in this game and they still win. I mean, they did it last week. So like, and this is a worse team. So I don't know. Like they would have to, like guys would have to be hurt along with 3 pick sixes in a row.
Yeah, that would be it. If there was an injury, that would. But even I think Hendon Hooker could do all right in this game.
Yeah, that's true. Would you rather have Hendon Hooker or Mac Jones?
I would. I guess that's a good question. I think give me Hendon Hooker. I liked him out of college. I've seen Mac Jones is the weirdest Pro Bowl quarterback of all time.
Yeah, he's up there. Him and Matt Schaub.
Yeah, I think so. At least Schaub was like, it was like in hindsight, it's like, it was the Kyle Shanahan thing.
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
Well, that is our show. Kyle, let them know we can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Gronin, and make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK. That is at On the Sideline JK.
Of course, if you like audio only podcasts, anywhere you get your podcast, search On the Sideline Podcast. It should be available there. Yeah, Kyle, that's it. I've been watching some NBA lately. I'm watching the Magic, which sucks because now Paolo's hurt. But yeah, I've been trying to get into it.
Yeah, they had a good game yesterday. Looked good in that one. Franz Wagner has played well after a bit of a slow start after Paolo got hurt. So that is kind of the pathway that they just have to stay afloat. They have to stay afloat until Paolo comes back and then hopefully go on a run. It was a tough break though. Very tough break.
Yeah. Yeah. But at least it's not like a out for the season thing. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, do we have anything else? Like, where are we at? I guess we're good. We can just head out.
Yeah, let's get out of here. I'm good. Let's do it.
All right. Well, again, thank you to everybody. We will be back midnight Eastern time to recap all of the week 11 game. Week 11, Kyle. We're basically done. Basically done. I know it's over halfway through the season. We're almost to Thanksgiving football, which is a great time, and then we can start preparing for the playoffs. Yes, a lot of fun. Again, thank you to everybody. We do appreciate it. We'll see you Sunday, and until then, have a good one. Peace.